Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second round of the Sim Racing Hub International GT3 Season 4 here from Kyalami. From the sand traps and traffic of Laguna Seca, we head to the mountainside above Johannesburg and the legendary Kyalami circuit here in South Africa. 4.529 kilometres or 2.814 miles of tarmac is steeped in motorsport history. First opened in 1961, it's hosted the South African Grand Prix World Sports Cars A1 GP, but more recently, in its updated form, it's been the home of the Intercontinental GT Challenge and the GT3 machinery on the menu tonight. Well, to guide you through the action, I'm back. It's Tim Fulbert, your lead commentator, and I'm delighted to be joined again by my good friend Steve Proudly. Good evening, Steve. How are you doing? And welcome back to what promises to be another spellbinding race here in the GT3s, especially after what we had at the opening round at Laguna Seca. Brilliant stuff. Well, good evening to everyone as well who's watching the live stream, whatever platform that might be. Please do drop in the chat. Let us know who you're cheering on, what you think of the racing action you're seeing, or any questions you have about the racing taking place. And of course, if you are enjoying the racing you're seeing, then please feel free to like the streams or subscribe or follow, whether that be on Twitch, YouTube, or beyond. And of course, keep up to date with things going on here at SRHi, because there's plenty of change coming up, and we look forward to the merger between SRHi and the Simsport Racing community. So keep up to date with all of that. So the cars are out on track, beginning their qualifying session. It's a 20-minute qualifying. There's about 16 minutes to go. Last week in the race at Laguna Seca, as we've mentioned, it was Nard Cox who was hurried to the line by Dave Jr. despite leading comfortably at points throughout the 1 hour race. The Dark Sky Racing driver able to resist the advances of the Artworks pilot late on. The race win decided by a matter of tenths of a second, and in qualifying tonight here at Kyalami, I'm sure it'll be even less than that. But Steve, conversation about qualifying, we know it's important to get further up the grid. The drivers wouldn't be out on track trying as hard as they possibly could to set that fastest time if it didn't matter. But last couple of weeks ago, the race at Laguna Seca proved something, which is keeping clean and staying out of trouble can sometimes be just as important. I provide you with this example. Mike Abrenhoser climbing from 20th to 4th place just through keeping out of trouble. And really, that's important to your race tonight, isn't it? It's not about getting stuck in, it's about picking your battles. Okay, well, I think we're having some audio issues with Steve, so we'll carry on with proceedings then this evening. Fingers crossed you are hearing audio from myself. We're currently focused on Rich Smith in the number 76 SRHi Bentley. He crosses the line to set his first time. Provisional pole, 1 minute 41.331 is now the benchmark. Chris Pinchbeck in second at the moment, looking to bounce back after a difficult Laguna Seca event, which saw him drop out from 4th place in the closing minutes. He's less than a tenth back, and it's somewhat of a Simsport 1-2-3 at the moment. Smith, Pinchbeck and Kieran Vidago, who's within a tenth of the provisional pole time with 14 minutes and 10 seconds remaining. Kieran, another driver looking to bounce back from a difficult opening round. He was looked like he was going to be on the podium, or at least fighting for the top 5, and then again an incident at turn 3 saw him firing off into the barrier and across the sand trap. So Kieran, another driver, looking to make amends for round 1. Top 5 at the moment is Smith, Pinchbeck, Vidago, Marquette and Medema round out your top 5. Then it's Nard Cox, our Laguna Seca race winner, ahead of Reece Spence, Rob, Andreas Garlin, Arwin Nam and Mead round out your top 10 positions as we look on the screen at the moment. Mattis Marquette kicking up the dust on the exit of the S's there, tucked in behind one of the Ferraris who want to back out and find himself some space. As we cut across to Andreas Garlin in the bright pink Mad Gertzer Racing Aston Martin. P2 finding himself caught up in traffic. That's one of the CBSR Mercedes in front of him. Danny de Swart currently breaking through the air for Andreas as he continues to lap on. Currently in P9, needs to find 0.3 of a second to move up to pole position. Already fine margins. Steve, hopefully your audio's back online, but again, we're already seeing just how close qualifying can be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same old, wasn't it? We had so many cars around Laguna Seca last time out that qualifying was difficult. Tough to find your own space on track, but they seem to be doing it. I think there is a little bit more room around the Kyalami track to get that space, although it doesn't look like Garlin's really sort of slowing down. He's just keeping pace with the car in front at the moment and just using that slipstream, although you've got to say it's going to be a bit of a disadvantage for him through the corners, but obviously he's happy there. He's not dropped back, and we just see there the new fastest lap of a 1:41 there, which is not bad pace whatsoever by Rob.
Yeah, Reece Spence Rob topping the timesheets for now, 1 minute 41.259. Leapfrogs ahead of Smith, Pinchbeck and Vidago, who are currently in pit lane. Actually, Rich Smith is out on track. He's just headed through the S's and up towards the tricky hairpin at Leacop. Talking of trying to find space at the 4.529 kilometres going around, there's 42 drivers on the grid. That's really about 100 metres of track to play with on your own if they're all out there on the circuit at the same time. So not much space at all to be shared. They all seem to be managing all right at the moment. No dramas we're seeing on screen. Rich Smith, though, is in a lovely clean air pocket at the moment, currently lapping very quickly indeed. Could be set to improve as he comes into the final corner at Ingwe. Gets a good exit, tries to keep all four wheels within the white line, runs out, stays over to the right hand side to minimise the distance to the line, and there it is, a new pole time. Rich Smith 1:41.136, fights back, knocks Reece Spence Roberts punch and counter punch from the top two at the moment. Bentley, Aston Martin, your top three as it stands. Here's Thomas Van Schaik in the 299, 610 Motorsport Aston Martin, currently 14th. But improving as he heads into the final corner at Ingwe. Gets a clean exit, not looking too squirrely there as he applies the throttle. Again, stays over to the right-hand side to minimise the run to the line. He improves, but only jumps up one position. The top 21 drivers, Steve, separated by 1 second. And with 10 minutes to go, I'm sure they're going to be preparing for another run at it.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw at Laguna Seca, didn't we? We called the top 20 and it was around about the top 24, top 25 that were within that magical second of the pole time. So nothing's going to surprise me this evening. We've got a fantastic server full of top quality drivers here that all know how to put hot laps in, they all know how to race, they've got some pretty good racecraft. So we are in for some top quality action now as the timer just clicks down to 10 minutes left in this qualifying session. The track is optimum, the temperatures are pretty good. We've got track temperature 41 degrees, ambient temperature 32 degrees, very little wind, so the conditions are pretty good from now. There should be plenty of rubber on that track, plenty of grip out there, so don't be surprised if we do see that pull time tumble a little bit more. There's maybe some more time in it.
Yep, looking at the timing screens, it is still Smith who's top of the pile at the moment, followed by Reece Spence, Rob and Chris Pinchbeck, your top three. Then it is Vidago and Dimitri de Knoit, who actually climbed up the order in similar fashion to Mike Abram-Hoser last time out, started in 25th, finishing 6th. So another driver that proved qualifying isn't everything. And at the moment, he's inside the top 5. Mike Abram-Hoser on screen at the moment in the number 21 McLaren. And P19 for now, 0.8 off pole position, or the provisional pole time at least. Looking to improve then as he heads through Mineshaft and towards the left-hander at Clubhouse. Sorry, that was Sunset, then into turn 7 at Clubhouse. Then we go into the S's at 8 and 9, and the track really falls away from you here, doesn't it, Steve, as it kind of dips down into the valley and then climbs up again towards the hairpin at Leekop. It's a circuit with plenty of challenging corners.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you come up that hill there towards just before the mine shaft, the braking zone is quite difficult because it's a blind corner. You know you're braking pretty hard. You're going over the crest of a hill. The track starts to turn away to the left early almost before you want to be there, and it's a great place. If you get a good run up that hill and get on the inside of someone, then that's a good overtaking opportunity. But what you have got to be careful of is getting the car stopped and not running wide on the exit, because they do get a chance to get this cut back and come down the mine shaft and attack you again down there. So again, as I said in the opening, apologies, people probably couldn't hear my fantastic introduction this evening. But yeah, I did say this track does promote great racing. It's good, it's wide, it's got some fast corners, it's got opportunities to overtake, defend and counter attack once you've been overtaken. So I think we're going to be spoiled for choice with the action on track this evening. Qualifying times, still a little bit of time left on the track. I think we're going to see some improvements maybe, but Rich Smith at the moment holding that solid pole position, and I do think there's a little bit more to come.
So we head into the final 7.5 minutes of qualifying here at Kyalami. Just to add to Stephen's point there, well, the Kyalami circuit updated, hasn't it? It's been revamped to these Grade 1 FIA regulations, and with that we get these wide openings into certain corners which really encourage overtaking, but with that sometimes encourages the drama. Mike Abramhoser then still at the centre of our focus, the number 21 McLaren, P19 for now. I think he improved on his previous lap, but didn't jump too far up the field. I believe he's actually stayed in P19, so still positions to be gained for the driver of the 21 McLaren. Top 5 drivers is still the same. Smith, Rhys Spence, Rob, then it's Chris Pinchbeck, Kieran Vidago and Dimitri Benoit. Again, your top 5. The top 5 separated by 0.3 of a second, so the margin's continuing to be as fine as ever as we head into the final 6.5 minutes. The top 3 are all out on track. Smith is just heading towards the right hand at turn 6 and then coming down the hill towards Clubhouse. He is then followed 2 or 3 cars back is the number 443 of Chris Pinchbeck. So they are all out on track attempting to improve. They all are fairly close together as well, so we could see a whole host of times come in, rattle off one by one. Kieran Vidago is probably the separate one from the pack, actually, maybe the joker in the pack. I'm sure Kieran would like that, having gone second on his previous lap, less than 0.07 of a second off pole position as well. So a great improvement from him, as we see Nard Cox as well has just leaped up the field from P8 to P4. So these quicker times are starting to come in now in this final 5.5 minutes. And Steve, Kieran really enjoys driving this Ferrari. I get that impression just by how quick he seems to be in it. He loves this 488 Evo.
Yeah, absolutely. He just spends a lot of time in it. He practices hard. He talks about it. He races it. He loves it, and he does put the effort in. And that's the big thing with all these guys on track. They all put many hours of practice in there. Rich Smith, Vidago, Cox, everybody on the server. They put the time in because they've got the respect for each other. They know they can't just turn up here and race and expect the results to come easy, because they won't. They've got some serious races on this track tonight. As Vidago just makes a mistake, he was hunting a 10th here and a 10th there. He was he was pushing and pushing, and as we've seen Kieran do before, sometimes that is his undoing. Sometimes he does push that a little bit too hard, and small mistakes do creep in. But I'm sure tonight he's going to give us a good show, and we're looking like we're set for a good battle. Certainly, definitely in the top 10 tonight.
Rich Smith heads back out on track after a short time in pit lane. Here's Rhys Spence Rob, though, heading down the hill from Leekop towards Mineshaft. A couple of drivers putting over to the left-hand side. Maybe a bit of miscommunication there with the blue and yellow Ferrari. That's the number 81. Just slightly impeding his time. Hopefully, Rhys didn't lose too much of his lap time down the hill there, but now he's got a good clear air in front of him as he heads in towards through Cheetah and into the final corner at Leekop. Ingwe, and he gets through the left-hander, puts the power down again, not looking too squirrely on exit, stays over to the right-hand side, and he crosses the line. No improvement this time from Spence Rob. He didn't improve 0.2 slower than his best. As you see, that's Arwen Nahm heading out on track in front of him in the white and black Lamborghini. So cars are returning to the track. They're probably going to have one stab at it with 3.5 minutes to go. 100-second lap. It's it's got time to get round and potentially get 2 in, but it's going to be close. Rich Smith then into the final corner. Can he solidify his provisional pole position? He had a bit of a wiggle on the exit of the right-hander at Cheetah. And as he crosses the line, no, he doesn't improve. This was, in fact, actually a warm-up lap. So here we go. Rich Smith then. This will be a lap to watch. Can he now improve on his time?
Yeah,
as he heads down the hill into growth.
I didn't want to cut you off in your prime there, but yeah, Richie's just building up. He was putting some heat into the tyres now, and he's really going to push this last lap, see if he can get anything in it. Interesting, Reece Spence Rob was a 10th up. He just lost it when it came to those back markers. I can see on the timing screens at the moment, he's 1/10 to the good, so he's got a 10th, but Spenklink's crept into the top 3 there, making it a real really tight top 5. I mean, it's anybody's pole position at the moment as they're all out on track.
Reigning champion Sam Spenklink responding then to not being here to race at Laguna Seca last time out. He was outside the top 10 for much of the qualifying so far, but now that number 1 Dark Sky Racing McLaren inside the top 5, and convincingly as well, and teammate Nard Cox in P7 at the moment. But back to Rich Smith as he heads out of Leacock through the kink at turn 11 and thunders down the hill in the Bentley Continental through Mineshaft and towards the Crocodiles. The car just wants to wash out through the left-hander as the track flattens back out, then braking and turning through the right at the Crocodile, trying not to run all 4 wheels over on the left-hand side there and invalidate your lap, then throw the car in over the curb at Cheetah, and Rich just gets dislodged there by the steep sausage curve on the inside, pushed out wide, lap time invalidated, or at least lost the time he had gained. Does have time to go again though, and he might just get away with getting 2 more in. Depends if he decides to head back to pit lane. It looks like he's crossed the start finish line. He's heading down towards Crowthorne for another attempt. Cut back to Kieran Vidago here in the number 4 Steve. He's got, it's incredible to say it, isn't it? He's only got 0.07 of a second to find, and he'll find himself on pole position.
Well, while you were talking, the reason I cut to Kieran was because he was 2/10 up, and then as I went to him, he got a monster of a slide on, and we just caught it as the cameras picked him up, so it lost him all his time. So Kieran definitely has got time in the bank if he can just put that lap together. He's going to cross the line here around about 3/10 down on his best so far, but he's going to go again. Obviously, this is going to be probably his last flying lap now, and it's his last chance to try and get that pole. But he has got the time in the bank, as we see so often with Kieran. He does have it. He's just getting that perfect lap together to get that pole. And let's face it, you only need a 10th here, as he proves us all wrong and parks at the end of the straight.
I was going to say one more attempt for Kieran Vidago, but no, he opts to bail out. He's accepted his fate with P3 on the second row of the grid. But here's Sam Spenklink in the number 1 Dark Sky Racing McLaren through the Cheetahs, through the right-hander and towards the final corner at Ingwe. Gets the car stopped just about, bit of understeer there, it wasn't quite on the apex on the inside. As he runs to the line, foot flat to the floor, he crosses the timing line, doesn't improve, so he's still got one more attempt, 10 seconds on the clock. He's just scampered through the start-finish line in time to get another lap in, as there's an Aston Martin stopped on the entry to Crowthorne as well, accepting their fate. So it's Rich Smith at the moment holding on to pole position ahead of Reece Spence, Rob and Kieran Vidago. In fact, Rich Smith has just collected the checkered flag, so he doesn't have an opportunity to respond should any of his competitors improve. So it's Spence, Rob, Vidago and Spenklink top 4. Then it's Garlin, Marquette, Cox, Volkan de Kanoit, your 8th and 9th, with Chris Pinchbeck in P10. And they're all heading back to pit lane. So at the moment, Sam Spenklink is really the man to watch on screen as we ride on board with the number 1 McLaren. Steve, is he improving, and can he still find any time?
He's not, he's down, and I don't think he's going to get it back. He's around about 3/10 down. That's an awful lot of time to chase, and I think he's just missed. I think he'll just go back to the pits with this one. I'm not sure he's going to do it, but there's nobody out there improving. As we see most of the field now back into the pits, they're all done. And it's looking like Rich Smith has got that pole position within the front row. So well done to Rich, well done to everyone for qualifying tonight. I mean, super awesome to those times.
Look at that top really, look, outside of the top 23 on the timing tower, separated by a second. Looking at my timing screen, 28 positions separated by a hundredth or so over 1 second. It's incredible how close qualifying is here in the SRHi GT3 Championship. But let's give you a quick rundown of the order after our 20-minute qualifying session here at Kyalami. Rich Smith, pole position in the 76 Bentley. He'll be joined on the front row by Reece Spence-Robb in the number 48 Aston Martin. There it's Kieran Vidago and Sen Spenkelink ahead of Andreas Garlin and Nard Cox, our Laguna Seca race winner. Then it's Marquez, Bolker, De Canoit and Pinchbeck rounding out your top 10. And Steve, refer to my previous point. Look, qualifying is great. It feels great to get the times in and be quick and get kind of that bragging rights of a good position on the grid. But 1 hour 15 on the clock, a pit stop as well to be made. It's all about this race here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've got the pit stop to make. They've got to get through the first corner nice and clean, and be prepared for some tough battling tonight. I don't think anyone's going to have it easy. I think, like I keep saying, we're going to see some awesome racing. We're going to see some tight racing. I think it's going to be very difficult for anyone to break away and get any clean air between themselves and the car behind. So it's it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Well, we saw at Laguna Seca, probably a circuit that lends itself more to the packs, the bunches of cars being separated out just through the fact of running through the sand or making a slight mistake is very much costly. At the end, the race victory came down to a matter of tenths of a second, and we're expecting more of the same here this evening at Kyalami. So Steve's out there on the Simsport Solutions Segway. He's thundering down the centre of the grid. So let's run you through the order. It's Smith ahead of Spence-Robb, Vidago and Spenkelink, your top 4. Then it's Garlin and Nard Cox, the yellow McLaren on your left-hand side. Then it's Marquez and Bolker in 7th and 8th positions. Ahead of the number 114 Bentley on the right-hand side. The De Canoit, he climbed, like we mentioned earlier, from 25th on the grid to finish P6 at Laguna Seca. Then it's Chris Pinchbeck on the left-hand side in the 443 Aston Martin, ahead of Arwin Nam's Lamborghini. Thomas Van Schaik in the 299, ahead of Mead on the right-hand side in the pink and silver Aston Martin. Then it's Jitse Medema in the 36 Ferrari, ahead of Marcel Viss. Alexander Delors takes the wheel of the number 49 Lexus from P16, ahead of 17 and 18, two Abron Hosers next to each other. Mike leads Nelson, however. There's Joris Everleens ahead of Tim Krul. Aaron Van Drunen in the CBSR Racing Mercedes will start from 21st position. Then it's Martin van der Kraan in the 22nd position, ahead of Johan Planus in the 81 Ferrari. He'll start from 23rd position. Then it's Chris Vickers ahead of Benjamin Simmers and Zander Vale in the number 808 Aston Martin. Then it's Tim Niebauer in the 622 Mercedes ahead of Simon Pike. Dennis Berkman, Damien De Keyser in the number 15 Lexus on the left-hand side of your screen. He beats teammate Tom van der Meer in the 888 Racing, 888 numbered Lexus, P30 and P31. Then it's Patrick Treffers and Evan Atafas in a 32 and 33rd position. There's two Nissans together on the grid. Nick van der Mart, Danny de Swart, Klaas Vester. Then we have Anthony Terhorst, Bas van Mellis, Cohen Scepter, Chris Hill, Baz Krosenberg and John Earl will complete your grid in the number 95 all black McLaren 720S GT3. And as the grid head round this formation lap, Steve, looking at the clock, 6:03 p.m. local time. Track conditions fairly stable from qualifying to the race, 32 degrees C. It has dropped a little bit actually, but with this race being 75 minutes, 1 hour 15, heading in towards sunset, we could see those conditions change, something that drivers are going to have to be aware of.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we can just see there on the screen the sun plays a big factor here at Kyalami. You know, it gets really low there, and it's very much a factor in blinding the drivers as they enter some of the corners. So it's going to be really interesting. The track temperatures may start to cool off a little bit, and track grip. will they notice that? Maybe not. Maybe you know, they'll be prepared for it. They've been practicing. They know what the conditions are. They know what the time of day is that they're going to be racing. So you know, these boys are all prepared for that. And I don't think that should catch them out. What will catch them out though is that sun, because it doesn't matter how often you practice with that, it can still unsight you when you come round that corner.
It's funny enough how even in sim racing, even in the video game world, the virtual world, blinding sun in your windscreen is just as blinding and off-putting when you're trying to drive. It's incredible how you can be here in the shadow of the mountainside at the hairpin at the top of the hill, and then as you round the left-hander at Crowthorne or further round the track, you can find yourself staring straight into the sun and unable to see where you're going. Grid heading down the hill though, in towards my shaft. Oh dear, that looks like Nard Cox actually just spinning off to the right hand side and collecting the wall. Not the best way to start your race there. You might be carrying damage before the green flag has even been waved. Drivers getting the hurry on now to form up into the 2x2 formation. Rich Smith actually was coming to a near stop there on the run towards the Crocodiles, attempting to potentially drive some heat into the brakes and then floor it and do a slight burnout just to increase temperatures on the rear tyres. And they are now heading into the penultimate corner at Cheetah, and they'll get ready to go in seconds time. So 75 minutes are on the clock. Thank you very much to everyone who's watching in. Aaron Walker, Cameron Fife, Mark Neutlings, everyone taking their seats in the virtual grandstand, ready to watch the action kick off. It will be Rich Smith that will lead us to the line to collect the green flag. 1 hour 15 minutes of racing ahead, and it's going to be a roller coaster ride here at Kyalami, waiting for the green flag, which will wave any second now. Still waiting for the green flag on screen. There we go. It seemed to come awfully late as they cross across start finish. Rich Smith leads away though cleanly. He's managed to get the jump on Reece Spence Rob, who moves across to the left hand side to defend from Kieran Vidago, who's rather boxed in as they head down towards Crowthorne for the first time. 3 wide further back in the pack, 4-5 wide there as I can see the Ferrari of Yitze Medema getting stuck in, but it all looks like they've got through cleanly. Rich Smith, importantly, he's got the whole shot as he heads up towards the hill through Barbecue and onto the back straight now, heading towards Sunset. Rich Smith, Spence Rob, then it's Kieran Vidago, Sem Spenkling in P4 as they go around the long right-hander at turn 6, down towards Clubhouse. The left-hander, Smith, now has a healthy gap. He's got 2-3 car lengths ahead of the Aston Martin in second place, but it looks like everyone's just got through cleanly there. Steve, a crucial start to the race. Doesn't look like any of our main contenders have fallen wayside.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic start there, and awesome shot down into turn 1. Just seeing them all go 3-4 wide and make it through the first few corners without really, from what we saw, pushing off. Maybe a little bit of door banging here and there, but nothing coming to harm. But what is quite apparent now is Spenkling is right up behind Vidago, and he's going to be pressuring for that third place and wanting to move forward. We know what Sem does. We've seen his pattern of racing over the last few months, the last few championships that we've covered, Tim, and we know that he doesn't hang around. He likes to push forward, and he usually has the pace to do it as well.
Yeah, but he's found himself against tight competition there. Kieran Vidago is not an easy hurdle to leap in the Ferrari, and he will be looking to make amends for race 1 at Laguna Seca. So let's call them across the line at the end of the opening lap. It's Rich Smith who leads Reece Spence Rob by half a second, then Kieran Vidago and Sem Spenkling locked together on track ahead of Andreas Garlin, Nard Cox, Mattis Marquez and Armin Nam, your top 8 ahead of Decanoit. Chris Pinchbeck hasn't been able to improve his position from P10. Then it's James Mead and Volker and Van Schaik rounds out your top 13 with Viss and Medema at the top 15 positions, but they're all still locked together, a matter of tenths separating the majority of the field as they head up through Barbecue for the second time of asking and towards Sunset and Clubhouse. Andreas Garlin here in the 188 will be looking, another driver again looking to improve on the result from Laguna Seca. Started 5th, looked fairly strong inside the top 5, eventually having to pit I believe and finishing 15th in the running. Involved in drama at the start as well, so a clean start for Andreas Garlin, something he wasn't able to do at round 1. Dropping further down the order, Tim Niebauer here in the 622 Team Rocket Fast and Furious Mercedes. He's hurrying Xander Vale's 808 Aston Martin, actually looking to the inside on the run up the hill towards the left-handed hairpin at Leacott. As they thunder down the hill, this stream of GT3 cars comes thundering through the mineshaft, through the left-hander, in towards the tricky braking zone for the Crocodiles. Looks like there was a move just further ahead, one of the Lamborghinis. Tim Kroll may be looking for a way past Mike Abrenhoser in P17 as they then rise and go through the right-hander at the Cheetah. New fastest lap from Rich Smith, hardly a surprise. The driver of the 76 Bentley setting the pace at the moment, a 1:41.598, the fastest time from the leading driver. And here's Chris Pinchbeck, and he's looking to the inside of Knoit. And Steve, Chris really now needs to start just trying to weigh up whether he needs to make a move now or start sticking with the pace and just get into a rhythm, because with 1 hour and 11 minutes to go, a pit stop still to play in, there's plenty of racing to be had. You wouldn't want to put half your effort into a move that doesn't quite come off and find your race ruined only 5 minutes in.
Yeah, and Chris will be, he's on the rebound from that really unfortunate event of Laguna, where he got to a solid 4th place from roundabout, I think he was about 11th or 12th on the qualifying, so he'd done really well. He'd made up a lot of places, he got up to 4th place, and then he lost it through no interference from anyone else, just slightly off liners, and Laguna Seca punched him, put him into the barrier, and I think another car collected him then and pretty much ended his race. So he just needs to score some solid points tonight. He needs to try and get up to, trying to get up into that top 6. He's got the pace to be in the top 3 or 4. We've seen that in the practice. So Chris can do it. He just needs to have a little bit of the luck this evening, but more importantly, he needs to put all that great racecraft he's got to good use and work his way forward.
Currently lapping in P10, caught in a bit of train of cars behind De Knoit, as well as Arwen Naam and Mattis Marquette. But here's a train on the screen. Mike Abrenhoser in the 21 TAR McLaren, looking for a way past Tim Kroll's Lamborghini, the number 19 car. Also latched onto the back of Alexander Delors in the number 49 Lexus. So this trio all nose to tail as they head down towards Crowthorne. A bit of a defensive move there from both Arwen Naam and De Knoit, trying to defend from Chris Pinchbeck, who looked to have the run on the way down in towards the first real overtaking opportunity at Crowthorne. As they climb up the hill through the left-hander at Barbecue, this top 10 are really yet to spread out. If anything, it's Rich Smith making a dash for it as Mike Abrenhoser returns to the track surface after being off on the left-hand side on the way up through the Just Case sweep and in towards Barbecue. So there's been an incident there. Shame for Abrenhoser, who did a fantastic job of keeping clean at Laguna Seca. Rather get the feeling he jinxed him there, and a mistake or an incident happening inside the first 10 minutes. As Nick van der Maat looking for a way past the Aston Martin and Simon Pike side by side through the left-hander. And van der Maat still has the overlap on his fellow Vantage driver, but it wants to just back out of that one and potentially live to fight another day. 1 hour, 8 minutes and 32 seconds still to go. Plenty of racing still to be had here at Kyalami. As we see a move from Chris Pinchbeck, looks to the inside in towards the right-hander at the Crocodiles. Couldn't get the move done though, and again he's forced to accept that the Bentley holds on to P9 for now. He's going to need to find a way through. Looks like he's just starting to get held up as Arwen Naam looks to stretch his legs in the number 55 Lamborghini. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Rich Smith going faster even then, and then again beaten by Reece Spence Robb, 1:41.262. So Spence Robb responding, actually bettering Smith's time by 0.3 of a second. So that gap is ebbing and flowing between the race leaders as they hurry on around this Kyalami circuit. In fact, they've managed to just bridge the competition. Looking at the sector times here, you can see Spence Robb finding time in the first sector on that previous lap. Look at that, 0.264 of a second found in that previous lap alone. So really starting to make inroads on Rich Smith's lead, which was close to a second a lap or so ago. Halved already by the driver of the Odyssey Racing Aston Martin. Through the S's, up the hill towards the hairpin at Leacott. just start to size up Rich Smith, start to get an idea of where he's quick, where he struggles, and where his own advantages are in the number 48 car. Streaming down the hill behind Vidago, Spenkling, Garlin, and then a second back to Cox. So those 4 drivers all still very much together on track. Just starting to see the top 10 maybe just split off into groups as drivers make mistakes, or indeed make overtaking advances, and then in doing so cost each other a little bit of time, even if the move does come off. Here is Spenkling. He's being challenged from behind by Garlin, but also he's looking for a way forward past Vidago. And Steve, in that situation, you're looking forwards, you're looking back. It's sometimes easy to get caught up, but if a driver's going to know how to stick to his rhythm, it's probably Spenkling.
Yeah, absolutely. As I've said before, we've seen him many times with Seb. He's a seasoned racer, fantastic racecraft, fantastic skill and ability behind the wheel of a car, and he knows how to be patient. We have seen him crack now and again under pressure. We've seen the odd little mistake, but for the hundreds of laps we've seen him, we've seen very few. So I think he'll keep that pressure on Kieran. I think Kieran's very adept at soaking up the pressure. He's very comfortable in that Ferrari, as we touched on earlier. The Ferrari is a good, solid car to drive. He's lapping very comfortably enough that Seb's not really getting right into the strike zone to be able to get the job done. He's just there in the mirrors. He's not really letting Kieran relax, but equally Seb's not able to relax as Garlin is behind, putting on, I would say, slightly more pressure on Sem than Sem is on Vidago.
As they head then through the left-hander at Leacock and charge down the hill. Spenkling running slightly wide, actually kicking up the dust on the exit of the left-handed hairpin. Then through Mineshaft, you can see the suspension working hard on the number 1 McLaren 720S GT3. As they go into the right-hander at the Crocodiles, I mean, you can just see at the back of the shot there, the absolute train of cars. So the drivers are still very much locked together as 10 minutes of this race has now elapsed. It looks like Smith has been able to respond to Spence Robb now. It's a bit of a stalemate. The gap's gone back out again to 9/10 of a second. Then it's 3.5 seconds back to this battle on screen for Vidago, Spenkling and Garlin. Then there's 1.2 seconds back to Nard, Cox, Marquez and Nam, who are together. I believe Nam just went for a move on the inside of the number 20 McLaren, but no, wasn't able to improve his position as Pinchbeck almost gets the overlap on the Bentley, looking for a way through up the hill and towards Barbecue, but unable to get it done again. James Mead now tucked up behind. He's also looking rather feisty. 2 Aston Martins together. Mead ducks to the right-hand side, back to the left, onto the racing line. Chris Pinchbeck defends, costs himself a little bit of a time there and distance to De Knoit, but it looks like he's been able to reel that back in under the brakes into the left-hander at Clubhouse. They all kick up the dust on the exit of the left-hander. Then towards the S's, clobbering the curb on the left and right-hand side in the Aston Martin. And then climb up the hill, and then flags out, starts going back downhill again into the left-handed hairpin at Leacock. Very tricky corner to get the braking zone right. It looks like the Bentley's just been able to pull a car length or two on Pinchbeck on this previous lap.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like it. It looks like Chris is coming under a lot of pressure from his fellow Aston Martin driver behind, which is possibly something to do why he's dropping off the back of the Bentley. But you know, as I said earlier on, this track does promote great racing. But what it is sometimes, if you've got a driver and you are not a lot quicker than them, it is very difficult to get the job done here. The different characteristics of the cars in the slipstream down this straight. Now, if some of them have got better top speed than others, and the Bentley is one of those that is relatively quick in a straight line, so the Aston Martin is struggling to pull up behind him, as we can see in the slipstream. Is not really having the greatest of effects, not enough for him to get close enough into the braking zone. But Chris will keep trying, he'll keep following, and he'll have one eye in that rearview mirror as his fellow Aston Martin driver is now starting to put a lot of pressure on him.
Closing up indeed, James Mead, and looking pretty fighting fit as well, actually making a slight mistake on the exit of Barbecue, just running over the grass on the exit. But here, looking back over the rear wing of Rich Smith's number 76 Bentley SRHi, of course the merger between Simsport Racing and the SRHi community taking place as we speak, and plenty of exciting events coming up and series and all kinds of racing action to be had. And Rich Smith donning a livery to just begin to, I suppose, the marketing program behind it, we'll describe it as, just to bring that to your attention, that these two great communities coming together to share all things sim racing. Heading down the hill though, Chris Pinchbeck in another one of these SRHi livery cars, but the Aston Martin still trying to find a way past the Bentley. Can he get it done this time? A stab of flames as he downshifts in towards the Crocodile. He's up the inside, got the move done cleanly. Chris Pinchbeck up to P9, a position he's been fighting for since the green flag wave. Now he's got the job done. Can he kick on and catch up to the back of the Lamborghini of Arwin Nam? And behind, James Mead now looks to pounce on the Bentley 114 de Knoit as the door was opened. It looks like he's been able to close it, but crucial, Steve, that move for Chris, because now we really start to see the pace of the 443. Can he improve? Can he kick on up to Nam and better his position further?
That's it, isn't it? It's all about taking the position when you can and then push on to the next one, but just don't do it in such a way as it risks your race finish, because you've got to try and stay consistent. You've just got to be consistent, clean, and just try and keep those laps ticking over. Watch the lap count, watch that gap. Don't look in the mirror, just drive your own line, as I always say every single race that I commentate on. It's all about driving your own line, putting those laps in and just watching yourself. The first person you're racing is yourself. You've got to keep it clean, keep it on the track and on the right line. As we see in Kieran Vidago, he's struggling now in respect that he's let Seb Swinkling close back up onto him again, almost within touching distance, almost within striking distance of these three cars. Now it's almost like throw a blanket over it. I think if Kieran makes a mistake at this point, he could end up losing two positions very easily.
A 12-wheeled GT3 car here, then lapping around the Kyalami circuit, all nose to tail. So it's Vidago that leads this little battle pack, fighting for the final step on the podium, but Spenkelink very close indeed. Then Garlin as well attached onto the back, as we see a move there. Nam trying to go around the outside of Marquette, and does he get it done through the cheaters? Just about, skips across through the grass, and look who that allows. Chris Pinchbeck dives up the inside. There's contact from Nam as he attempts to block the lane. It looked like it was a rather reactive move from Nam as opposed to proactive, and that seems to cause a collision. He's flashing the lights in disgust, but a very opportunistic move from Pinchbeck, who in the last couple of laps now has climbed from P10 all the way up to P7 with plenty of clean air in front of him. Nearly 4 seconds now to work with. Well, Steve, I mean, what an opportunistic move from Pinchbeck. He saw the mistake and the drama happening in front of him. I thought, this is my opportunity to make the pass. As we cut here, a battle for P3. Spenkelink to the outside. He's going to try and go the long way round Kieran Vidago through Sunset. If he holds on, it will become the inside into the left-hander at Clubhouse. Can the McLaren driver do it? They're still side by side. Vidago hanging it out around the outside, but off onto the curb and skips through the grass quickly. Loses the position, so it's all changed. Spenkelink to P3. Chris Pinchbeck, 2 laps, P10 to P7. What a move.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, firstly, Kieran Vidago there, that was damage limitation. As we can see now, he's really under pressure from Garlin, I think he's behind him. And, he's just got to regroup now. Sem set that move up perfectly. He knew he was on the outside, but he knew the next corner he was going to be on the inside. He got the job done. He held it bravely around the outside. Full, respect to Kieran for leaving in the room, knowing he was letting him have the inside, but Kieran needed just to slot back in behind because he knew Garlin was going to try and take an opportunity, as we saw. Back to the Chris Pinchbeck move. I don't think, for me, I'm not a steward, but I don't think Chris Pinchbeck did anything wrong there. He drove on the left-hand side off the racing line because the guys ahead were in that battle and there was contact and the car was almost out of control. You just can't cut across the full width of a track like the Lamborghini did, and expect not to hit somebody when they're at racing speed like that. So for me, I think it's a racing incident. I don't think necessarily it's blamed to be apportioned anywhere, but I certainly don't think Chris did anything wrong either.
Well, crucially, they're all facing the right direction. They're all still lapping, so it looks to have been a fairly inconsequential event between really 3 or 4 drivers there on the run down into the final corner, as now Vidago again coming under threat in towards the right-hander at Sunset, but this time Andreas Garlin doesn't try and pull off the move around the outside, a similar way to Sem Spenkelink as they head into the left-hander at Clubhouse and towards the S's. Spenkelink just been able to actually push himself clear of the Ferrari, lapping very quickly indeed on that previous tour, able to dip into 1:42.8 despite making the move. So a quick time from Spenkelink, and let's see if he can bridge the gap. 7.8 seconds to Rhys Spence Robin P2. Race leader Rich Smith still being harried on by the 48 Aston Martin. Here then, Cliff Bolker in the Team Bastos number 2 Porsche. Meet in a Bentley sandwich, it seems, at the moment. De Knoit in front, Marcel Viss behind.
I don't think that Porsche is much of a filling between two big pieces of bread like those Bentleys are. Big cars, and that Porsche does look very small. But he was right on the back of the 144 Bentley, earlier, but he just looks like he's lost a little bit of time on that lap there, and just things have just settled down a bit. But this is the battle for just outside the top 10, so we're all trying to get into that top 10 and just get the best result we can this evening. The Porsche does struggle down the straights, but he's doing a great job to be hanging in there where he is, and he is the highest placed Porsche.
Indeed, well, the Bentley in front certainly punching a large hole in the air to maybe negate some of that deficit in a straight line. Here's Sem Spenkelink, certainly a driver on the move, unable actually to start eating into that gap to Rhys Spence, Rob. As you can see on screen, over the last 3 laps, the gap's gone up 2.6 seconds. It was even 6/10 on that last lap. So, okay, yes, there was the battle between the two of them, but yeah, we're unable to see Spenkelink really start making inroads, as there was an Aston Martin off to the inside there on the S's, staying well clear. That's the number 7 of Chris Hill dropping down the order in the front of the Aston Martin Vantage, looking very much damaged. So it looks like the race is unravelled just at the turn of the 20-minute mark for Chris Hill, potentially going to try and limp back to pit lane. He is now through the S's and climbing up towards the hairpin at Leacop. So fingers crossed he can get that rather sad looking Aston Martin back to pit lane, and his race is not quite over. The race is very much still on. Spenkelink now looks to be hurried on by Vidago, who's somewhat left Garland behind now. 9/10 of a second between the Ferrari and the Aston Martin. Now has his crosshairs set on the number 1. Wondering if these two could try and potentially work together. I say that, Steve, with a wry smile on my face, and a complete understanding that both of these drivers don't like finishing second best, do they? But they've got a task to do. 8.3 seconds to overturn to the leading duo of Rich Smith and Rhys Spence Rob, who are still in the same camera shot.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the top two aren't really battling, so they're not really costing each other any time. They're just putting the laps in. I think Rhys Spence Rob is possibly looking at the pit stops as maybe an opportunity to gain something, as we've seen drivers, lose 3 and 4 seconds in pit stops if things don't quite go their way. But Spenkelink, Vidago, and Garland, really, they are battling. They are pushing each other, and they are costing each other time. They're not going to catch those two up. They're not going to close that gap down to the leaders. And I think at 8.5 seconds now, he's going to take a mistake from the leaders for that gap to come down anyway. I think we've got sort of 53 minutes of the race left, so it's going to be a tough one for them to close that gap. It doesn't sound a lot, 8 seconds, but when you're talking about 10s gained here and there, it's 10s lost. It takes a number of laps to close that gap down.
Definitely does, and with margins as fine as they are in this championship, it really is every 10th, every lap, every corner matters to your race result. So we're inside 20 minutes of this race elapsed, 52 minutes and 50 seconds to go. Let's give you a run through the order as they come across the line. Rich Smith leads Rhys Spence Rob by 1.1 seconds. Then it's 8.5 seconds back to Sem Spenkelink on the final step of the podium for now, with Kieran Vidago and Andreas Garlin in close company. Then it's Nard Cox and Chris Pinchbeck, separated by 1.8 and 1.9 seconds respectively. Then it's 2.1 back to Arwin Nahm's number 55 Lamborghini, and he rather is leading a train of James Mead, Mattis Marquez and Dimitri de Knoit. They're all separated by less than a second. The gaps between them at least, down to P11. Then it's Cliff Bolker in the number 2 Porsche in P12. He's 0.6 of a second back. So really, we've got about 5 or 6 cars all locked together on track. Then it's Medema, Delort and Berkman rounding out your top 15 positions. On board with Sem Spenkelink, looking back over the golden rear wing of this Dark Sky Racing McLaren. Just starting to see where the different cars make or lose or gain lap time around through the S's there. Sem Spenkelink looked mighty fast compared to Kieran Vidago, but under braking, the Ferrari seems to close right back up again, and I'm sure we'll see that down through the mine shaft as Vidago's car bottoms out and skips across the bumps, kicking up sparks behind and into the right hand. And look at that, the Ferrari well within touching distance as they come into this final sector of the 4.5 kilometre lap here at Kyalami, down towards the final corner at Ingwe, and the gap that Spenkelink had in the middle sector has completely gone by the time they cross the line. And Vidago in with the slipstream as well. Hopefully we'll keep him within touching distance of making a move. Last lap a 1:42.1 from Spenkelink. Meanwhile, the race leaders in the 1:41.8, so they're both about 2-3 tenths quicker as Vidago gets all kinds of crossed up on the brakes there. Nearly runs into the back of Sem Spenkelink. That will wake Kieran up. Two races nearly disappearing in a flash there. Fortunately, Kieran able to regain control, but all that time he worked so hard to gain has disappeared in a flash. He's now under fire from Garlin once again. They're locked together. The Aston Martin 188 looking for a way through. On the exit of Sunset towards Clubhouse, goes to the outside. Vidago leaves just enough room, a car's width there. Garlin opts to back out and fight another day, showing the bright pink Mad Goetze racing car in the rear mirrors of the SRHi number 4 Ferrari as they plunge through the S's and then climb up towards Ingwe once again. 25 minutes gone, so the drivers will be starting to think about pit stop and how they're going to split up the 75-minute race. At the moment, it looks like no drivers have made their mandatory stop, or at least drivers that are in the top 23 on screen. And if you look to the left-hand side of your screen, in the timing tower, there's a little orange box with the number 1 in. That shows that the driver still needs to make their mandatory visit to pit lane. That will change to green once the driver has completed that pit stop. So at the moment, as you can see, top 23, no one has made that stop so far. We'll try our best to keep you across the strategies playing out on screen. But Vidago looks to have lost all that time to Spenkelink. It's now 2 seconds, the gap between the McLaren and the Ferrari, and he's under fire as Garlin looks to the inside, then to the outside. He's going to try and go the long way round at Crowthorne, but there is the opportunity and the space to do it. But unfortunately, Vidago just able to hold the space and the line and keep the Ferrari ahead of the Aston Martin as they head up the hill in towards the left-hander at Barbecue. Get the feeling that Kieran now has gone from the aggressor to the defender as he has this Aston Martin tucked up behind. And if they do continue to battle, Nard Cox in the 35, race winner from Laguna Seca, waiting in the wings to pick up the scraps should any fall from the table. Now here's this battle, 4 cars all together on track. It's Nahn, Mead, De Knoit and Bolker all together. Let's see if the Team Bastos car can make a move. He looks to be fairly quick and hurrying the back of the Bentley on the previous lap of 1:42.4, half a second faster than the 1:14 in front of him. So there's definitely pace in the bright red number 2 Porsche 911 GT3R. Now it's about using that momentum to make a move on the 1:14 car in front of him. Bolker started in P8, so his race must have been slightly hampered by that opening lap, losing positions down outside the top 10. Now looking to reclimb the ladder back inside those positions. And well, you can see them. I mean, if P8 was where he started, the white and black Lamborghini at the front of this train is the target. The gap between them, though, is a matter of car lengths as they fly across the line. All this battling is allowing Jitse Medema to close up as Sem Spenkelink finds himself in a bit of clear air, and behind, a couple of cars returning from pit lane. Looking at the timing comparisons there, previous lap, the first time, I believe, in a few laps, Sam Spenkelink faster than the driver in P2, Rhys Spence-Robb. But the gap in the last 3 laps, Steve, has still extended by nearly half a second. So as it stands, this chasing pack of Spenkelink, Vidago, Garlin, Cox are not doing enough to close in on the leading duo.
No, that gap's not really come down at all. If anything, it's extended out. It's almost at 9 seconds now, back to second place. And I think, as I said, the first and second guys, that's a battle on its own now. And I think Spenklink's done himself a favour. He's managed to break the toe of Vidago. Vidago no longer has that slipstream to hang on to the back of him, and he's lost sight of him a little bit and has had to defend an awful lot from Garlin, which has cost them both time, because I believe Cox in 6th and Pinchbeck in 7th are closing on these two, and if they keep battling, this will turn into a 4-way battle very, very soon.
What a flying performance from Pinchbeck, who's climbed up the order now and is latching on to the back of Nard Cox. He's only 1.1 seconds back, but he is going quickly indeed. 1:42.3. He was 2 tenths faster than the majority of drivers in front, if not 2-3 tenths, maybe even half a second faster than his competition on the previous lap. Kieran Vidago on screen, so these two teammates, slightly different cars. Vidago 3 tenths on that last lap. He was quicker, but look, the ebb and flow of competition between the two of them on those previous 3 laps just shows how the pace ebbs and flows throughout this 1 hour 15-minute race. Pinchbeck certainly the man on the move. In fact, he's just at the back of shot there, tucked in behind the golden McLaren of Nard Cox. So really has managed to stretch away from that battle pack of Naarm, Mead, De Knoit and Bolker that he seemed to get through all in one go into the final corner at Ingwe, sorry, I keep getting those two mixed up. And now Pinchbeck's looking to kick on. It is Rich Smith that still leads the way, and Steve, he seems to be doing everything right at the moment. He's accepting that Spence-Robb's about 2 seconds to 1.5 seconds back as that gap just kind of reaches out, extends and decreases. But crucially, he's not succumbing to that pressure. It's just at the moment lapping and keeping a very strong pace indeed, a 41.8 the previous lap.
Yeah, absolutely doing what he needs to do. Rich is a seasoned racer. He's done many GT3 races. He's not done many in the Bentley. I'm not sure if this isn't his first season in the Bentley. I think it is. So he's doing a cracking job in what is relatively a new car to him. But Rich knows what it takes to win races. He's got to just be consistent. He's not got to worry about Rhys Spence-Robb behind him, but he will have one eye on that gap, and he'll just be managing it the best he can, and getting ready to make his pit stop when he needs to. But the Bentley is one of the better cars for going long.
Well, looking on the timing tower on the left-hand side, Jitse Medina in the number 36 Ferrari is the first to head to pit lane from the top 20, so it'd be interesting to see where he returns onto the track. The driver of the Red Rocket Racing team started 13th last time out at Laguna Seca, was running inside the top 15 here, but now is dropping down the order. We'll keep tabs on where he returns to the racing surface. But Nard Cox now in that slightly damaged McLaren. We did see the incident on the warm-up lap for the driver of the 35, just hitting the wall on the right-hand side on the run down towards Mineshaft. Hopefully, it doesn't seem to have impeded his performance too much over the half an hour of racing we've had so far this evening. But at the moment, it's Chris Pinchbeck that's hurried up to his rear-view mirror, and at the moment Cox will be looking to start defending as this battle still continues on. Naarm, Mead, De Knoit and Bolker are still stuck together. Looks like we might have had a change. No, actually Mead was in P9 before, so these positions still locked in. This group of 4 cars have been stuck together for the entirety of the race so far, but this is one of those interesting positions. Who's going to make the call, blink first, head to pit lane, and maybe try something different to jump position? Really, the driver that might be looking to do that would be someone like Bolker in the number 2 Porsche, who has been very quick and looks to be quicker than the drivers in front. Could try and get the undercut on them. And Steve, there'll be a number of drivers looking to maybe roll the strategy dice. Potentially someone like Vidago, who wants to get that position back from Spenkelink, but even more so, potentially Sem Spenkelink to try and close what is a now 10.2 second gap to the leading pair.
Yeah, absolutely, but as we can see, the gap's come down a little bit to Vidago. That's not because of Vidago's out-and-out pace, that's because on lap 18, Spenkelink seems to have made a mistake or been held up somewhere to the tune of 1.2 seconds, which is an eternity. That's put the gap now up to second place to around about 10 seconds, so that gap is extended out, and more importantly, Spenklink's fallen back towards Vidago and Garland, who are battling hard. I'm just worried about Pinchbeck and Cox, because they were making good ground, but now they've got closer together. I feel that they might start impeding each other by attacking and defending, which won't be good for their overall race result. I think ideally, in an ideal world, they'd be talking to each other and saying, let's just kick on, let's turn this into a four-way battle if we can, but obviously that's not in a racer's interest. They will battle as hard as they can, and we can see already that Pinchbeck is now right on the back of Cox as Cox makes a mistake. Wow, opportunistic time to go to that battle there, as Cox just clipped the curb, unsettled the car, had to back out of it, managed to gather it all up. Great driving from him to collect it up, and great bravery from Pinchbeck yet again, same part of the track where he's managed to keep it all in line, and he's got through and he's gained another position. He's done that now on a couple of occasions this evening by just keeping it clean, keeping it on the right part of the track, avoiding the trouble ahead of him and picking up those positions. So up to a P6 now, which is fantastic, and that's 4 positions gained for Pinchbeck.
Well, crucially now for the race, traffic starting to play a part in proceedings. Race leader Rich Smith just had to negotiate 2 cars returning from pit lane behind. Reece Spence Robb will now have to do the same. But for someone like Spenkelink, who's potentially got a few more laps of racing before he catches any traffic, could be a prime opportunity to make the best of that clean air, or indeed try an alternate strategy, pit earlier, try and find another gap of clean air, whilst the race leader is working their way through the back markers. They've just had to pass the 313 of Patrick Treffers in 37th place is the Nissan, so they've already worked their way past about 4 or 5 cars, and now they're really going to start getting into the thick of things. There's a number of other cars on pit lane as well. Number 29 has come to pit lane. That is one, I believe actually, our 2 race leaders are now. So Rich Smith, number 76, he's in pit lane, clearly had enough of the traffic, opted to dive into pit lane and make his mandatory stop. So he will hand over the baton of the race lead to Reece Spence Robb, who now for the first time this evening doesn't have the SRHi Bentley in front of him, and is now trying to make his way through the traffic as cleanly as possible. Let's keep an eye though on where Rich Smith emerges. He's currently still stationary in pit lane, dropping outside the top 10. This stop will be crucial, the only stop of the race, but will he emerge back into clean air, or will he be caught up in traffic lower down the order? Half a lap plus it seems to have cost him in terms of time at the moment, and still the number 76 is not quite rolling down pit lane. I'm sure, there we go, picture in picture. Finally, Smith gets on his way and releases the pit lane speed limiter and will return to the track. It looks like he's dropped down outside, or down towards 15th place, Steve. But crucially, by that inset picture there's not too much traffic around him. He can make the best of his position and really try and kick on and set some good pace.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his time in the pit lane there from crossing the line and hitting the limiter to releasing the limiter was 1 minute 3 seconds, 0.2. So it's a relatively long pit stop for Rich, but it needs to be done, and Reece Spence Robb has got to do the same. So hopefully, I think as we see now, Reece Spence Robb going into the pit, so this is going to be really interesting. It's all going to be sorted out within the space of a lap. I think it's going to be good to see where exactly he comes out on track. So we're going to keep an eye on Rich Smith now and watch this unfold.
I was going to say, surely The driver, the number 48, needs to respond now. And look, there's a whole flurry of cars. That's Spenklink and Vidago as well into pit lane, and Chris Pinchbeck following the pack in as well. So they all seem to be coming and making their mandatory stops here on the verge of 37 minutes to go. This is really shuffling the order, but crucially, a number of drivers still to make their pit stops as well. So it's all going to come together, we hope, in the final 5 or so minutes. Such is the way here in this kind of racing. It seems to just make sense. All the storylines seem to come together in the closing stage. But Reece Spence Rob in picture rolling down pit lane as Rich Smith's number 76 Bentley thunders round the final corner. Spence Rob releases the pit limiter and he's back onto full gas as Smith comes flying across the start-finish line. They are going to be side by side as they head down through the kink and towards Crowthorne, and they are indeed, but it looks like Smith has potentially just got the job done on the brakes. Warmed up tyres, hot brakes as well. He's able to hold on to his lead, but it wasn't an easy, all said and done job. Very close indeed, and it looked like, Stephen, that Reece Spence Rob had played the strategy card perfectly. So nearly they beat Rich Smith down towards turn 2.
Yeah, and that was all done in the pit stop. He was 3 seconds quicker for his pit stop time. So he did a pit stop in 1 minute point 2, and as I said, Rich Smith was a 1:03.2, so exactly 3 seconds quicker through the pits, which almost gave him the lead. Another couple of tenths, and I think Rich might have had a bit of a battle on his hand there and been pushed out wide into turn 1. But as it happens, he's, like you say, he's got brakes up to temp, tyres up to temp, and he's actually managing to extend that gap over Rob right now, although they are in traffic, well, battling for position, should I say. But it's going to be tough now. Wait till the pit stops shake out, maybe they'll get some clear air in front of them again, but it looks like Rich has covered that one off nicely, and he's just got to get his head down now and get some lap times in.
Crucially as well, in pit lane, Kieran Vidago jumping ahead of Spenklink, a pit stop time of 1 minute 2 compared to Spenklink's 1:06, so 4 seconds found there on pit road. Vidago gets back in front of the number 1 McLaren, as a whole host of drivers now are also in pit lane. Cox, Bolker, De Knoit and Alexander Delors as well are all stopped on pit road. So Smith is our net race leader. Now you can see on the left hand side the graphic displaying who has made their stops and who's still yet to visit pit lane. Garlin, Naam Workman and Joris Everleens are still yet to head to pit road. Rich Smith and Reece Spence Rob, the first 2 drivers, our net race leaders, in 5th and 6th. Then it's Johan Plana, Sem Spenklink, Kieran Vidago and Nard Cox round out your top 10. And unfortunately, it looks like Vidago must have made a mistake and again gets a wiggle on at barbecue. So something's happened here, Steve, because he emerged from pit lane ahead of Spenklink, but in that lap out of pit lane, he's lost it again, and that wiggle seemed to be a rather unhappy looking Ferrari.
Yeah, whether he's just pushing cold tyres too much, I'm not sure. He's maybe had a bit of a slide and he's just trying to get it all together again and get the car settled down, get him settled down and get back into it. And we'll see. We'll get to see how he goes over the next few laps. It doesn't look too bad at the moment. It's not too out of shape. He's pushing hard. He's going to be looking to try and close up on Spenklink, so he's not going to be taking it easy. That is for sure.
So they go through the left-hander at Leacock and down the hill towards Mineshaft. As the car spun to the inside of the first corner at Crowthorne. That's Simon Pike in a Dynamic Motorsports number 13, and he looks to be going slowly still. Hazard lights flashing on the rear of the Aston Martin, showing that potentially he had the pit lane speed limiter on. Naam Workman and Joris Everleens in pit lane then. So Naam in the number 55 looked to have stayed out as long as possible in that battle pack down towards the outskirts of the top 10. His main competition, Bolker, De Knoit, Marquette, have all pitted as well, and down towards P13-14. Really, the real gainer from this whole pit stop situation has been Jitse Medema and Cliff Bolker, who both managed to jump potentially 2, 3, 4 cars all through this opening pit stop window. And a real gain of position through strategy. Bolker now up to P11, Medema P10, with still 2 cars to make their stops, the first of which, Andreas Garlin, on screen at the moment in the 188. Mad Götze Racing Aston Martin, leads the race, but with 32.5 minutes to go, needs to come to pit lane and does so. So only two more drivers yet to pit, those being Johan Planis and Anthony Terhorst in P4 and P15 respectively. But let's see whether Garlin's race strategy benefits his position. He was around P5 before the stops, battling away with Sem Spenkelink and Kieran Vidago. On screen, on the centre screen, that is the number 4 Ferrari of Vidago, and then the picture-in-picture shows the stationary Aston Martin of Andreas Garlin, who's currently serving his mandatory pit stop. Then behind Vidago, we've actually got Chris Pinchbeck, so it's been a stellar middle portion of the race for the driver of the number 443 Aston Martin, who's not only managed to climb his way through the field, he's now fully latched on to the back of this battle for what is the final podium position once all the pit stops have played out. Vidago comes into the final corner, then just as he turns through the left-hander, Garlin gets rolling down pit lane. And it's a short run to the pit exit line for the number 188, releases the limiter, applies the throttle to 100%, and it looks like they're going to be side by side on the run down the hill. No, in fact, Vidago is clean through, so holds on to position. Crucially, Pinchbeck has closed up, is on hot tyres though, so now he's going to try and find his way past his fellow Aston Martin, who's emerged from pit lane potentially on new and cold rubber. Will be trying to get up to speed. So order as we come up towards the 30-minute mark. Rich Smith still leads the way ahead of Rhys Spence, Rob. Then it's Johan Planis, who's rather out of position, still yet to serve his pit stop in the number 81 Ferrari. Then it's Sem Spenkelink in a net P3 ahead of Kieran Vidago. A gap that's now 3.2 seconds over the number 4 Ferrari. Then it's Andreas Garlin and Chris Pinchbeck on screen at the moment. Then they've got 5.5 seconds back to Nard Cox. Yitze Medema 2.6 seconds further back, and Arwin Nahm in the number 55 Lamborghini rounds out the top 10 as Pinchbeck's looking very feisty, tucked up under the rear wing of the 188, looking for a way past in this opening lap, and time's running out for Pinchbeck in terms of making the best of his advantage on fresh and warmed up rubber, as opposed to Andreas Garlin, who's potentially still trying to get temperature into his tyres. As they round the crocodiles into the final sector of the lap, that advantage is starting to whittle away, and Pinchbeck will have to get past on pace. Looks to have had good speed though across the race so far as they come across the line to start their 27th lap. And Steve, now you've made your pit stop, strategy card has been played. It's a sprint race to the flag.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you know where you are on track. It's all shaken out, as it were. We've just got the odd one or two that have got their pit stops still to do. But so I think the likes of Vidago, Garlin, Pinchbeck, and probably Cox at least are going to jump up another place when Planis makes his pit stop. But yeah, it's a battle now. 30 minutes, just under 29 minutes left of this race. It's a battle to that checkered flag. There's no more opportunities for undercuts, overcuts or anything like that. It's got to be an overtake, force an error, force a mistake, or just downright outpace your competitor and get the overtake done. But it looks like Pinch's lost his opportunity, because Garlin's certainly got back into a rhythm now, and although Pinchbeck is doing well to hang on to the back of him and certainly has the pace of Garlin, I don't think he's got any excess pace to catch and pass him at the moment. He's just going to be sat there and following him around for the next 28.5 minutes, I think, unless Garlin makes a mistake.
Jerome Van Ginkel in the chat cheering on Cliff Bolker. Says, yeah, come on Bolker, with 2 strong arm emojis. It's been a fantastic race for the driver of the number 2 Porsche so far. Despite starting in the top 10, he's now trying to recover those positions, and has certainly been an exciting one to watch doing so. He's now latched onto the back of Arwin Nahm's number 55 Lamborghini, a car that he hasn't been able to pass so far this race, but getting past the Bentley and McLaren earlier on and through the pit stops as well, is now in the best placed position to get back inside the top 10 as Johan Planis makes his pit stop and will now tumble down the order from inside the top 5 to probably outside the top 15 or so. One of the last drivers to make their mandatory visit to pit lane, as Cliff Bolker will be looking to just start to close up now on Narm. The gap's ebbing and flowing around the half-second to 8/10 mark. Behind, this battle between Marquette and Duquesnoy is really going to start giving him a buffer to work with as the McLaren and Bentley nearly go side by side in Crowthorne. Then up the hill, they're still jostling for position, although not side by side. There seems to be an adjustment of line in order to fend off any chance of attack. As this is a fantastic shot, riding on board with Chris Pinchbeck in the number 443 Aston Martin SRHi car. He climbs up through the S's and up towards the tight hairpin at Leacott. Then they'll go through down towards the hills. The camber just runs away from you there. Charge flat out down towards Mineshaft. Keep the pedal flat to the floor as you throw the car into the left, and then try and keep it over to the left hand side as you brake and turn into the right hander at the Crocodiles. Two drivers in front, Vidago and Garlin, running all four wheels over the track and then some on the exit. Then through the cheaters, trying to be careful with that curb on the right hand side. We've seen a couple of mistakes from drivers clobbering the rather highlighted and advanced second section of that curve. The yellow top section seems to really launch you off the racing line. Managing to keep clean, and Pinchbeck has been in the right place at the right time so far in this race as he brakes very late into Crowthorne, closing right up on the back of Garlin. Didn't quite think that was a move. I had a sudden rush of adrenaline there, thinking we were about to see a T-bone into the first corner, but no, Pinchbeck gets it gathered up. Rather just to show what performance he has under him in the number 443 car. A side-by-side in front. Garlin's going to try and go the long way round for Dargo. Can't make it happen this time. He's going to cut back though to the inside, which is now the outside into the left-hander at Clubhouse. Vidago on the inside. Oh, and what a fantastic move from Garlin, who managed to swoop around the outside. A kick of sparks as he bounces across the curb on the exit of the left-hander. Did he gain advantage by running off the track, I suppose, is the question, but he managed to keep the position. And Vidago was in no position really to fight back as they ran towards the S's. Garlin picks up P4, Vidago back to P5, and now falls into the clutches of his teammate in the number 443 Aston Martin. As they run down the hill towards Mineshaft, Vidago is going to try and fight back. Already it looks like Garlin's managed to just put 2 or 3 car lengths between himself and the Ferrari driver. Another pretty brave move there, Steve, from Garlin to go around the outside and cut back to the inside, but another overtake in those 2 corners. It's wouldn't stand out as an overtaking opportunity. Managed to make it work. Just quickly, Vidago there running wide on the exit of Cheetah and giving up the position to Chris Pinchbeck, but a great move from Garlin.
Yeah, good move from Garlin. I think Kieran did really well in that move as well, because I don't know if you noticed, as Garlin swept across the front of him, Kieran literally jumped out of the throttle there, because I think that would have ended in contact. But for some reason, Kieran seems to be losing pace. As Adam rightly says in the chat there, Kieran is losing pace, and I agree, Adam, he seems to be losing pace. He's dropping off. He hasn't been able to stay with Spenkelink. He obviously lost that position that he gained in the pit stops to send very early on. Garland's now got past him. I believe that was almost like a team orders. I think he let Chris go past him there, and I think he ran wide as a result of letting Chris through, because he knew he'd lost the place and he's playing the team game. He's just starting to make a few mistakes, is Kieran, here and there. I'm not sure whether he's picked up some damage or whether there is genuinely something wrong with the settings he's got. I mean, the track is cooling down, maybe there's a tyre pressure issue. Not quite sure, to be fair, but there's one thing for sure, he's definitely losing lap time. As you can see, Chris has really put a lot of daylight between himself and Kieran already. More importantly though, Chris has now got his sights set on Garland. There's a little bit of a gap there, but if he can just hang on to the back and try and close that gap down, then there's nothing better to inspire you than seeing your opponent in front, and that gap being as small as it is. Chris will be trying to wring every ounce of performance out of that Aston Martin that he's driving here tonight.
Indeed, as the ebb and flow of this race, some drivers finding pace as the sun is well and truly set over the mountainside here at Kyalami, just north of Johannesburg. It's a spectacular place to put a racetrack, and some spectacular racing playing out this evening as we see Mike Abrenhoser looking to recover from that off early on in the race. P16 all over the back of Tim Niebauer's number 622 Mercedes. And then I believe that's Bas van Mellis behind, but not a position, a battle for position there. Now, looking at the timing tower on the left-hand side, if Vidago is losing pace, he's losing it rather quickly indeed, because there was a 7-second gap back to Nard Cox, which has now come down to 5.9 seconds in the space of maybe 2/3 of a lap or a lap or so. So it's really starting to come hurrying down, and the graphic on screen at the moment all but confirms it, as Vidago losing 1.7 seconds, 1.3 seconds to the driver of the 35 McLaren on lap 29 and lap 30 respectively. So really something is not going to plan for Vidago, who was fighting Spenkelink for the final step on the podium. But now the driver of the number 1 McLaren is the best part of 17 seconds further up the road. In fact, it's about 20 seconds now as they thunder down the hill through Mineshaft and towards the Crocodile. So Vidago, who at Laguna Seca was almost hurrying, it seemed, for that team orders move to benefit his position, accepting the team orders move that Steve proudly mentioned in the reverse to give up the position to Chris Pinchbeck, and now he needs to settle in and really damage limitation in this final 21 minutes. Doesn't look to have the pace. Nard Cox looks to be closing in rapidly. Further up the field, Sem Spenkelink, though, in the number 1 McLaren, doesn't quite have the pace now to close up on Rhys Spence. Rob, we thought that the pit stop cycle might present an opportunity to reverse a gap that was extending in excess of 10 seconds, but at the moment, as they cross through the end of the first sector, 12.5 seconds separates the driver in P2 to Sem Spenkelink here on the final step of the podium. Plenty of battles going on up and down the field. Here's Simon Pike in the number 13 Aston Martin, looking to the outside of Damien De Keyser into the Crocodiles. De Keyser defends to the inside. Pike tries to get the switch back on the exit, but can't quite get the job done. And it's action stations, but positions stayed the same on the exit and through Cheetah and into the final corner at Ingwe. They stay in the same positions for now, but get the feeling Pike's looking for a way past and has good speed in that number 13 Dynamic Motorsport Aston Martin. In fact, on that previous lap, he actually was about 4/10 slower than De Keyser. So, in fact, the driver of the number 15 Lexus looks to be through and trying to pull away now from his competition. As Dimitri de Kooijt here, still stuck behind the back of the black and purple number 20 McLaren of Matas Marquez. These two have been locked together the entirety of the race so far, are now inside the final 20 minutes. So let's give you a rundown of the order. All drivers have completed their pit stop, so it is now a sprint to the flag. Rich Smith leads the way, has led from pole position, has led all but one lap, which Rhys Spence Rob led in the pit stop phase. He leads by 1.9 seconds from the driver of the number 48 Aston Martin. Then 13.1 seconds back is Sem Spenkelink in P3. Then it's Andreas Garlin a further 4 seconds back in the 188 Aston Martin. He has a 1.5 second lead over Chris Pinchbeck, who's climbed his way through the order to now be in P5 after some rather opportunistic driving, but clean driving nonetheless, has seen Pinchbeck move up to P5 and trying to make amends for the opening round at Laguna Seca. Kieran Vidago in P6 and in damage limitation mode, as he seems to be struggling in this second half of the race. He leads Nard Cox by 6.4 seconds. Then it's 1.2 seconds back to Yitze Medema and Cliff Bulker in close company, 8/10 further back. The number 2 Porsche climbing up the order and trying to get back to his P8 from which he started, the only Porsche on the grid at the moment. Then it's Matas Marquez rounding out your top 10, a further 3.5 seconds back. Then it's Dimitri de Kooijt, Arwin Nahm and Alexander Delors down in P13. Dennis Workman P14. Tim Niebauer, in the 622 Mercedes, rounding out the top 15 positions. Then it's Mike Abrenhoser, Joris Evelins and Van der Mart in P18 ahead of De Keyser and Simon Pike, 19th and 20th positions. But Workman here on screen at the moment in the 444 Aston Martin, the Mode 11 racing car, looking for a way past Delors' number 49 Lexus as they head through Mineshaft towards Crocodiles. Then they'll climb up over the crest and in towards the fast right-hander at Cheetah and into the final corner, the left-hander at Ingway. As they go in through there, both cars getting stopped and turned rather nicely. The headlights just starting to shine a little brighter now, as with nearly an hour of this race elapsed, we are past 7 p.m. local time. The sun has dipped well and truly behind the mountainside here at the Kyalami circuit and through Crowthorne at turn 1. The Aston Martin trying to get an overlap on the run up the hill through the Just Case sweep and into the left-hander at Barbecue. Dennis Workman, though, unable to get that advantage and really make effect a move on Delors for P13. And as is so typical in these SRHi races, it doesn't matter whether you're fighting for the race lead or fighting outside the top 10 and beyond. A battle is a battle worth winning. And Stephen, it's great to see it doesn't matter how far down the field you go, the quality of driving remains just as high.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think that's really, that's shown in the lack of incidents we've had this evening. We've had a couple of little spins here and there, but we haven't had any major catastrophes, touch wood, so far with 16 minutes left. The racing's been relatively clean, but it's been very, very close at points. But yeah, the driving standards up and down the field, like you said, that they're battling for every single position. It's not just about scoring the points. It's about bragging rights. As we see, I think that's Workman trying to go around the outside of the Lexus, and he's potentially gonna get that job done. Although he's gonna have to hang it for another. No, he's got to fall back in behind. But look how close he's. Little tap on the rear end. That's lucky that didn't end badly, but that's allowed him up the inside now, and it's going to be a drag race down the start-finish straight into T1 and see who's got this position, because they are now almost side by side.
Lexus gets the run out of the final corner. It's Workman and Delors separated by 0.07 of a second as they cross the line through the kink and down towards Crowthorne. Who's going to be better on the brakes? They are evenly matched, in fact, but just on the inside line, Workman has the advantage. And through turn 2 and climbing up the hill through 3 and 4 and towards Barbecue, he's got the job done. Dennis Workman up to P13 and Delors down to P14, so a change of position outside the top 10. As Cliff Bulker here on screen at the moment in the number 2, the bright red Porsche, closing up on Yitze Medema and Nard Cox, both of whom, well, these two drivers, Medema and Bulker, gained in the pit stop phase, really seem to leapfrog their competitors and gain their positions up into the top 10, so a fantastic strategy from the pair of them. On screen on the left-hand side, Arwen Nam handed a drive-through penalty, can only assume that is for continual abuse of track limits. 3 strikes and you're out in the ACC game, and at the moment Arwen Nam looks to be have used up all of his lives and now will have to trundle down pit lane. It feels very slow and long indeed here at Kyalami. Is in front now, so Nard Cox, Medema and Bulker are all going to be stuck together on track as they're catching traffic as well. As a Lamborghini in front, that's the number 19 car there of Tim Kroll, who gets out of the way, somewhat forced as well. You get the feeling that although he was backing out of that one, that Nard Cox was in a position to muscle that McLaren through as they climb up the hill through Barbecue. A spat of sparks from the back of the Ferrari as Medema skips across the curb on the inside of the Red Rocket Racing Ferrari, bottoming out over the steep curb profile there at Barbecue. As Nam has served his pit lane penalty, and there he is on the right hand side. They're nearly 3 wide into the turn 2 at Crowthorne. That's Tim Niebauer, Arwen Nam and then Mike Abramhoser. So the Mercedes and McLaren were busy fighting away, and then Arwen Nam has emerged from pit lane and rather got in the middle of it. So it's Mercedes, Lamborghini, McLaren now. 3 drivers battling for what is P14 on the road. Abramhoser looking for a way past immediately. Is now cut back to this battle here of the 2 drivers who made a great strategy call to pit pretty early on compared to their competitors. Medema and Bulker locked together battling. Get the feeling they do actually have pace over Nard Cox. Both of them lapping in the low 42s. In fact, Bulker a 42.0 on that previous lap 3/10 faster than Medina, 6/10 faster than Nard Cox's McLaren, the race winner at Laguna Seca, losing pace in this final 13 minutes of race 2 here at Kyalami. So here they are, the yellow and blue Ferrari, it's Medina, and then the bright red Porsche is Cliff Bulker, and then in front you've got the dark gold McLaren 720S GT3 of Nard Cox. I get the feeling that Medina and Bulker might just start battling. Medina might want to just work together. They do seem to have the pace advantage over Cox, but saying that, you can't really chat to each other and decide that between the two of you. As Medina slow to move across to the racing line, defending his position on the run into sunset. The Porsche of Bulker looking for a way past immediately, unable to get it done, and get the feeling that you can just get caught up behind the traffic. Saying that, this battle for position is not quite blue flag traffic, but still carrying that momentum is very difficult. You need to get up to the competitor, get past and continue that pace. You can find yourself getting stuck in the rhythm of the driver in front and just lose pace and unable really to execute the optimum lap time that you have in the car underneath you. As looking at the chat, plenty of people still watching on and enjoying the race. Let us know who you think is going to be taking the checkered flag in first place, and whether you think there's any drivers still to make a move up the order. Rich Smith still leads the way, 2.5 seconds over Reece Spence Rob. So that gap has slowly been extending over the second half of this race following the pit stop. And on that previous lap of the Kyalami circuit, Rich Smith, the only driver in the 1 minute 41s. His pace has barely dropped off the entire race so far. An average lap in his first stint, 1:41.7. And in this second stint, an average lap of 1:41.8. It's been incredible consistency from the driver of the 76 Bentley. Adam Isalovic in the YouTube chat saying Rich seems strong as he always is at Kyalami, and he's proving that still. Only 10 minutes to go. His eyes will be firmly set on that checkered flag. Steve, well, this is crunch time now, isn't it? Because you would almost say, I don't really want to say it, maybe I'll stop myself from saying it, but you know, the job's nearly done. Sometimes cruising to the flag is a lot harder than continuing in the rhythm you've had the entire race so far.
Yeah, but to be fair, he's got a little bit of traffic to contend with. Things like that, they'll keep him awake, they'll keep him alert, as it were. He's in a rhythm. I mean, you just have to look at those lap times. They're all a couple of tenths spread across them. You know, 41.9, 42.1, 41.9. It's impressive stuff, as you were saying, you know, consistent lap times, and that's what's got Rich this gap. It's not just out and out pace, it's about being able to do it lap after lap after lap and staying out of trouble, keeping your nose clean. Soaked up a little bit of pressure at the beginning, you know, fairness to you know, Reece Spence Rob, he's only 2.5 seconds back, and that's pretty much where he's been for the whole of this race. 9 minutes left to go. He's obviously waiting for a mistake because he hasn't got the pace to catch and pass Rich. The only way he's going to get that first place is if a mistake's made. He's in a very solid second place, and I think at this moment in time he'll be thinking, you know, that's it, second place for me. And Spenklink, he's made the break, as we said at the beginning, as we see Rich just running very wide there, but that's the curse of going around the back markers, throwing yourself offline a little bit. But Spenklink got that job done as we said he would at the beginning. We said he had the pace, we said he likes to make headway as quick as possible. He was battling for the first half of the race very much for that third place. He's got it, he's held it, and he's pulled the gap out. You know, he's safe there now. Garland in fourth place, cracking job. I'm not sure if Vidago had managed to maintain his pace, I'm not sure Garland would have got that. I think those two were very, very close on outright pace, but you know, at the end of the day, Garland's there in fourth place. Pinchbeck, what a boy, you know, fantastic race again from him. We saw that at Laguna, as we said, unfortunate ending at Laguna, but tonight he's managed to to come through the field again, pick up those those places as they were presented to him. He's put pressure on the cars in front. There have been mistakes from those cars. He's picked up the positions, and he's in a solid 5th place, which is a fantastic finish for him this evening. It has to be said, that's a cracking drive from Pinchy tonight. Verdago's managed to settle down by the looks of it in 6th place, and that gap's sort of staying around the 6-second mark now. Back to Cox, who's got his own problems with Medina and Buckle behind him, so I think that's keeping Cox off the back of Verdago at the moment, because he'll be looking back towards that battle. But yeah, we've seen some good drives this evening, Tim. I think it's been it's representative of what we've come to expect at SSRI now.
Yes, the field now 7.25 minutes left on the clock will have their eyes firmly set on getting to the checkered flag to finish first. First you have to finish, is the old adage. There are still battles to be settled, and one of them is this trio here. Cox, Medina and Bulka are locked together. Now it looked like the McLaren was able just to steer clear of this Ferrari and Porsche, who have been knocking lumps out of each other in terms of lap time. Specifically, no contact so far. It looks like in this previous 2-3 laps though, Cox has just started to fall back into the clutches of the Red Rocket Racing Ferrari 488 Evo. And here they are through the left-hander at Clubhouse, and they are very much locked together now in this battle for P7. Cox, I do wonder, he must be carrying some damage though, Steve, because we did see him take a rather nasty lick off the barrier on that formation lap.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think on the formation lap, I'm not sure you can pick up damage. You generally ghosted, unless correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. It's that long since I've driven on ACC, and I don't think I have ever hit the barrier on a warm-up lap, I'm pleased to say. No disrespect. But yeah, I don't think you can. But we're looking at the Porsche now, just trying to make a move, and I really, I really sympathise with that number 2 Porsche, because it's fantastic round the corners, round the twisty stuff. It really gets out the corners well, but you'll see him now right up into the slipstream of the Ferrari ahead, and he couldn't be much closer through that corner. He's really set himself up to be in the slipstream, but unfortunately with the Porsche, you've got to be in the slipstream just to keep up. And unless he's going to prove me wrong, he's not going to be able to get a move done. As you can see, he's just hanging. He's pointing his nose out, but he's not alongside. He's just nowhere near close enough. And as you can see, there's a couple of car lengths, and that's just the difference in the top speed of the cars. So frustratingly for him, through all the twisties, through the back part of the track, he can close up to that Ferrari, he can put loads of pressure on it, and he can probably pull out a little bit more time through these corners. But when it comes to that long straight where there's an opportunity to overtake, if you've got the legs, he hasn't. He's got shorter legs than the Ferrari.
He's going to have to make it count somewhere else in this final 5 minutes if Cliff Bulka wants to gain that P8 position from which he started, and he dropped back at the start and now has managed to climb his way back through the order through strategy and through some rather heads up and brilliant driving. But it's 3 drivers locked together in this battle now for P7. Cox, Medina and Bulka. And 4.5 minutes to go. It's anyone's at the moment. They're very evenly matched on pace. Last laps around 42.6, 42.5, 42.4. Cox, Medina and Bulka in that order. So they are closing up and will continue to do so on the run to the checkered flag. Just over 4 minutes to go. The headlights well and truly beaming brightly here at Kyalami. The sun has set and we're heading towards night time. Nearly 20 minutes past 7 in the evening here, as a Ferrari moving aside to the inside, driver in 32nd position. That is Martin van der Kraan, staying over to the left-hand side as the motorway traffic ploughs on past, and Cox actually in the braking zone there moves to the left-hand side after hitting the brakes as if to just close the door but not lose too much time, rather to stop an opportunistic move from Medina, but in doing so just cost himself a little bit of time. This fantastic helicopter camera shows just how the McLaren and the Ferrari are able to just take a little bit of space out of Bulka's advances, and then through the twisty stuff, bright red Porsche number 2 comes closing back on in. Look, you see through Clubhouse, and in fact, it's Medema who looks to be the driver on the move at the moment, as they're going to go left and right through the S's here. Nard Cox, as well and truly having his cockpit lit up by the headlights of Medema's number 36 Ferrari as they climb the hill towards the hairpin into the left-hander. Medema is looking for a way past and is filling the mirrors of the number 35 McLaren. He'll then apply the throttle. Bright red glowing exhausts from all 3 cars as they fly through Mineshaft and towards the Crocodiles and into the right-hander. Cox again slightly offline, a car's width or so, just to defend his position and try and irk any chance or just dissuade Medema from making a pass or an opportunistic move. Bulka pushing hard though, as you can see, rattling across the curb on the exit of Cheetah as we ride on board with Medema here. This splitter cam shows you just how dark it is out there on track and how powerful these headlights are on the Ferrari and indeed all the other GT3 cars. And a look back as well from the inset camera to see that Bulka's close as he has been, but unable to make the move in the straight line, as Steve Proudly has mentioned, unable to close up in the slipstream and get the job done. As we look back from Yitse Medema's car carrying the Bart Simpson sticker there, that was a brilliant addition to that livery, as they then thunder on the straight out of Barbecue and towards the right-hander at Sunset. Really, Steve, get the feeling that it's going to be a mistake that's going to cause a change of position here. These 3 drivers are locked in battle, but they're also locked in their rhythm at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing really between them, is there? As we've said, that I think the difference between these drivers is the car's characteristics, and we see that at different sectors of the track. But at certain corners, you could literally throw out the proverbial blanket and cover all 3 cars. And it's very much, I think you're quite right in what you're sort of saying. I think it's Cox that's under the most pressure. I think that he's the one that's he's got the most to lose here, potentially 2 positions if he makes some mistakes. But Medema keeps getting close enough to put a bit of pressure on him. He's just dropped back a little bit this time round, but he's not far away, and I think it's not over yet. We're just about to coming on to the final lap. I think we'll have 1 more lap to go. But it's all getting very hot at in the midfield.
Indeed. Here's Rich Smith, race leader. I mean, it just shows you how comfortable he is in this 76 Bentley. Last lap is what could be his penultimate lap of the race, a 41.8. So he's absolutely flying still in the latter stages. Gap to Reece Spence Rob has gone up to around 3-4 seconds. Look at that consistency from him, but also time being found in these closing laps as the fuel wears off and the drivers push on towards the checkered flag. Now the timer has hit 0, so I believe this is the final tour of the Kyalami circuit for Rich Smith. All he's got to do is negotiate the final sector of this 4.5 kilometre circuit, and he will be scoring a very dominant victory here in South Africa. The driver for the number 76 Bentley has been the benchmark all evening. And in the background, Reece Spence Rob, well, that's all he's been for this race. In the background, unable to make advances on the driver on your screen. And out of the final corner, onto the start-finish straight, Rich Smith is going to pull over to the left-hand side and take the checkered flag to win round 2 of the SRHi Season 4 of GT3s here at Kyalami. He leads Reece Spence Rob by 4.3 seconds. Then it's Sem Spenkling rounding the final corner. He'll take the checkered flag from a well-earned podium position. P3 for the Dark Sky Racing number 1 McLaren driver. Andreas Garland will take P4 ahead of a valiant Chris Pinchbeck, who's in a smattering of backmarker traffic there, and as he crosses the line, a climb from outside the top 10 to P5, he'll be very happy indeed, making amends for Laguna Seca. Kieran Vidago manages to hold on to 6th place. Nard Cox, Medema and Cliff Bulka do not change positions there in that final lap. They are 7th, 8th and 9th positions ahead of Matas Marquez, rounding out the top 10. Then it's Dimitri de Knoit in P11, ahead of Dennis Berkman in P12 in the 444 Mode 11 Aston Martin Vantage. He'll lead home Alexander Delors, who's 4 seconds back in the 49 Lork driving Lexus. then it's a battle for position here. Tim Niebout, Arwin Nam and Mike Abran-Hoser all together on track in the fight for P14, 15 and 16. Nam was in for a better finishing position, but picked up a drive-through penalty in the closing stages, dropped down the order and dropped down to the outskirts of the top 15. But Steve, great racing, great driving up and down the field, but the man of the moment, Rich Smith, a dominant performance from him. He'll be very happy with his race tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I took the opportunity to speak to Rich this afternoon and I asked him if he'd got brushed up with his interview technique, and he was playing it down a little bit. He said, you know, we'll see what happens. Rich is a very sort of a conservative sort of a guy. He's got all the talent, he's got all the ability, but he doesn't often shout about it. But that was a dominant performance this evening from Rich Smith. You know, great to bring it home in P1 in a car that he's still getting used to. He's only, actually, I think this is only his second race in that car. I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, fantastic performance from Rich. Well deserved that victory, and some great battling from the guys behind as well. You know, I mean, let's not take it away from any of the guys there, as you know, it was all fantastic racing tonight. Some good moves all around, and some good battles.
The first job really was defending off the start, and as we can see on screen, he did exactly that. It was in fact Kieran Vidago that was the aggressor down towards turn one. Everyone managing to just give each other enough room to get round Crowthorne for the first time of asking. But Steve, also it's a great opportunity for these drivers to just get race practice with a 75-minute race as well, because you start to get an idea of how strategies can work in your favour, or rather something you need to avoid doing. And it seemed there are a few drivers out there who pitted quite early on. Yitse Medima's the standout at first stopper with 43 minutes to go, but then found himself inside the top 10. With that practice, with that strategy execution, it's all a lesson learned, isn't it, carrying into the next race with this format?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's all practice. I mean, at the end of the day, we always say wherever you are on track, you know, track time is the best, and track time in race conditions, it's all about, you know, getting the experience of the car, feeling the you know, the effects of you know, tyre wear, fuel, you know, using the fuel up, different temperatures, times of day, things like that. It's all valuable data that you don't always get from just hot lapping. So if you're in a race and these guys stick to it and just keep going as they do, you know, it's all lessons learned. Every day is a school day, as the old saying goes.
Well, indeed, and it looks like Rich Smith is here to speak to us post-race, and we'll drag him into the commentary booth. Rich, congratulations on a stellar drive this evening. Pole position, P1 finish, race victory. You must be very pleased with the race tonight.
Yeah, couldn't have gone any better, really, to be fair. Yeah, happy with qualifying. There was a little bit more in there. It's quite tough. It's always tough with the amount of cars on track to find the space. You know, it's and then if you make a mistake on a lap, or you have to bail out of a lap, you've got to drop into space, and it's quite tough going. But yeah, in the race, yeah, really enjoyed it. It was nice to get away, get a nice clean start down to T1. I obviously knew Reese was next to me in the Aston, and the Aston is pretty sluggish off the line, as I usually drive it, so I know that. So got out there, and he stayed with me first sort of 20-25 minutes within a second. Never really threatened him, but close, kept me really honest. And then towards sort of the end of each of the stints, I think his tyres, his front end probably just started to go, and I was able to pull it a little bit, but I completely messed up my pit stop, which gave him the opportunity to obviously race me down into T1 again, which was a heart in mouth moment. I thought if I can just stay ahead, I'm on warm tyres, I've done a lap and he's on cold, so hopefully I can stay ahead for the remainder of the race if I could hold him off down to T1. So yeah, it was good race.
You look to be gelling with the Bentley very well. I mean, consistently in the low 42s, high 41s across the race. How did you find your tyres, the car underneath you around this Kyalami circuit as the two stints played out? You mentioned there that you think that Reese was struggling with the front end. Did you have any particular problems? You looked to be flying.
Yeah, no, I think, as I say, I've done more laps around this circuit in the Aston than any other car, and I know if you push it a little bit, the front end does go a little bit quicker. The Bentley's just a little bit more consistent. You can drive it from the rear a little bit more with a bit lower traction control. So yeah, throughout the stints, if I fully concentrated, I didn't have back markers, you know, I could be within sort of, you know, even at the end of a stint, I could be within 3-4 tenths of, you know, my fresh tyre lap. So, you know, it just felt like I probably got, you know, I could have carried on for an hour and still pulled in, you know, it only dropped sort of 4 or 5 temps at maximum if I needed, you know, if I really pushed it. So no, it was felt really good. And I think that's the nice thing about the Bentley. It does because you can sort of, you know, turn it a little bit more on the rear. The Aston's very, you know, very nose happy really. It needs that front end. The Bentley, you can turn a little bit more on the back. It just allows you to maintain your tyres a little bit better.
Well, podium in the first race at Laguna Seca, podium race victory here tonight at Kyalami. Hoping to keep the podium streak alive?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm away for the next race, so I miss Paul Ricard. I'd say much to my disappointment, but I hate the track. But so yeah, next race for me will be in about a month's time, I think, which is Zandvoort, which a track I don't mind, and the Bentley is very good there. So you know, I've got my fingers crossed that you know, a bit of practice pull off a result there again as well.
Oh, good points in the bag tonight. Congratulations, Rich, on a brilliant race victory.
Thanks very much. Cheers, guys.
We'll go over to our P2 finisher, Reece Spence Rob, in the number 48 Aston Martin. Reece, it was try as hard as you like throughout that entire race. Just looked like you didn't have quite enough to get past Rich Smith and take the victory.
Yeah, I am sweating like crazy. That one was really intense for me, even though it probably didn't look it half the time. It was just trying to keep on and play those mind games. But yeah, Rich drove an absolutely brilliant race, and I just didn't have that extra tenth to try and close up to the back of him. And then I think I was just a little bit heavier on the tyres. The Aston just generally is a little bit more, because it's, you know, the front tyres, it needs them a lot more. So they start to go off by the end of the stint, and then you just start to pull away. But yeah, it was a really, really good race from my end, just no mistakes, and I can come away really, really happy with the PT.
I was going to say, from Laguna Seca last time out, 7th on the grid, to P11 in the race last time. A change of fortunes here at Kyalami. What do you think the difference is? Is it purely just from one track to the next, or do you think you found anything with the car in between the two races?
Laguna, I messed up the qualifying a little bit. I had some traffic on a couple of the laps, so I didn't get the lap I wanted to, and then unfortunately in the first corner I got involved in the first corner wreck, which put me down to about P40 I think at one point. So last week it was just, or the last race in Laguna, it was just about damage sort of limitation, and I did manage to get back up to P11, so P11 was actually a really, really good finish for me considering how far back down the grid I was. But this race, yeah, I knew I just needed to get that good lap in quali and just try and pull away and keep myself out of trouble, and yeah, it did work this week, so really good.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations on your P2 result this evening.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
We'll go over to the driver who finished third on his return to the series, missing out at Laguna Seca, but back, the number 1 McLaren, Dark Sky Racing's Sem Spenkelink. Sem, looked like you had a lot of fun out there, battling hard through that first half of the race with Kieran Vidago and Andreas Garland, but in the second half, finding yourself in no man's land, really, between the leading duo and that battle pack behind. But you must be pleased to return to the podium.
Yeah, definitely. When starting practice here for Kyalami, I was struggling a lot with the McLaren, being the first time I've driven the car. I saw that my pace was off by a big, actually like a large amount, because these guys were driving low 40s and I was struggling in the 41s on the practice service. I was like, oh my god, this is going to be a mess. So I was really happy to qualify in 4th, and then in the first stint I could really push Vidago. He seemed to struggle a lot in the first stint, sliding the car, so I was like, I need to keep the pressure on him, and then there will be a moment to pounce. Eventually nice overtake around the outside of turn 4. So that was really happy to strict that, and then he was really quick actually, and he managed to stick close behind me until the pit stops. And yeah, that was very eventful as well. I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but we came out of the pits side by side. Really heavy shit into the first corner, because I actually made a boo-boo and stalled the car in the pits. But after that, I had good pace and I could drive P3 home.
Well, it's a great result considering the instance then, like you say. But how did you find the McLaren? Like you say, you're new to it. You were, aware that you had time to gain in terms of outright lap time, but across race stints and the 75-minute race format this evening, how did you find it being at the wheel of the 720S?
Yeah, it was quite a fight actually. The car has grip, but there is a certain point where it just doesn't have grip anymore and you start sliding a lot, and it's about finding that perfect sweet spot of having the car exactly where you want it. So I think it will take maybe 1 or 2 races to fully get adjusted coming from the Porsche, which is a completely different car, of course. But I hope to be able to challenge these guys up front going onwards.
Well, congratulations on your result this evening, Sem. Return to the podium, P3. Good job.
Thank you very much, Tim.
And the fourth driver who's with us here in the commentary booth is Mr. Chris Hill. Chris, you were down the order. It looked like at one point your car was looking a little bit beaten up, but hopefully you managed to enjoy yourself at some point out there at Kyalami.
I actually enjoyed that race, considering. Yeah, I did my usual Jedi mind tricks and moved everywhere to left to right and managed to get a few places at the start. And as the laps continued, I was building a bit more confidence then. Anthony went off in front of Patrick and I misjudged which way to go. And I unfortunately had an incident with Patrick and collected Anthony, and my steering was at 90 degrees, so I decided to drive back to the pits rather than retire the car, because every point counts in the championship. And that's how it ended, so I carried on. I managed to finish 32nd, I think.
Yes, I believe so. 32nd or 33rd, I think my timing screen has it. But still, great pace being shown despite having to stop for all those damages. A comment from you on the level of competition in this championship. You know, we always see it and we see how close it is, whether it is GT3s or GT4s. Do you ever get wowed with just how close it is? I mean, top 20 odd drivers separated by a second in qualifying. This is a field that's got a very high level of talent.
It certainly is, and I'm glad we can host such races for these guys. As you said, both GT3 and GT4 are very entertaining to watch. I look forward to watching the stream back to see the close battles. But yeah, these guys are fast, and I don't get wowed by it. I just get demoralised.
Well, don't worry. There's a reason why I'm doing commentary now and not sim racing. It's along the same lines. But anyway, congratulations for being a trooper out there, Chris, and continuing on and taking the checkered flag. And I look forward to seeing you out there next time.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the broadcast. It's great to have this level of professionalism.
The pleasure's all ours. Thank you very much, Chris, and the other drivers for dropping by. Steve, great to hear then from our podium finishers, as well as Chris dropping in to let us know about his race and the level of competition here. Kyalami, once again, proving not only a great track for racing, but I feel like we had all the perfect ingredients tonight, didn't we, for an exciting battle throughout the field. But the one driver who really managed to set themselves above the rest, Rich Smith, and he's clearly very happy with that race victory.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say he sounded very happy with it, and he should be, because it was a really consistent drive for him. He seemed very settled, didn't he? In the interview, it didn't sound like he was having to push too hard. He was at a pace he was comfortable with, and he just did what he needed to do. But the battles up and down the field were absolutely awesome tonight, and we see it as Chris touched on there, you know, and you've touched on. We see that in the GT3s, the GT4s. It's not just how close the battles are, it's the respect that these drivers show each other, going side by side through multiple corners, allowing each other racing room even when they know that potentially they're going to lose a position by doing it. They'd rather do that than take out their opponent. That's the level of racing that shows shows the true sportsmanship that is out there on the track every single time these boys hit the road and battle it out for those top spots. And with some incredibly fast lap times as well. I think the important thing, the big difference tonight, that Kyalami, as we said, does promote great racing. The big difference between this one and Laguna Seca was qualifying. Qualifying Laguna Seca was just like a car park, wasn't it? It was cars nose to tail trying to find that space. Well, they all found the space tonight. They found their pace, and Rich Smith came out on top, and a fantastic result from him. And I have to say a big thank you to Chris Jedi Hill for dropping in there. I don't know about you, Tim, but I felt like the boss was just checking up on us a little bit in that dropping into the interview booth there, and he's loitering around till the end just to check we don't sign off early.
It's like a teacher walking past the class door, isn't it? Just to check that everything's going as intended. Well, we'll bring things to a close then, wrap up the show. Thank you very much to everyone who's been watching on, whether that be on YouTube or Twitch or beyond.
You've got 2 minutes yet.
2 minutes. All right, we'll stall, don't worry.
I've got some adverts, Tim, don't worry.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in with the racing action. It always makes it all the more enjoyable to be commentating over, to see many of you enjoying the race as well, dropping in your thoughts, who you think's going to win, who you're cheering on. Plenty of you this evening getting involved with the action. Thank you very much for doing so. From myself, Tim Fulbrook, and our broadcast director, Steve Proudley, and of course from Mr. Chris Hill, who's just making sure everything is still going as planned. A big thank you for joining us this evening on the stream. It was Rich Smith who was king of Kyalami. Can he maintain that form heading forwards? We look forward to seeing you next time here at Sim Racing Hub International. Until then, goodbye.